Woo! Same hole, 3076. We might be done before we start here, boys and girls. Welcome back, everybody. Well, we're finally getting around to loading up this ladder test for N550 with the 80 grain ELDM. After part 7, when I told you the next video was going to be this ladder test, I kind of had a slight detour. Afterwards, I was thinking about it, and I thought, you know, I really don't want to put this daily driver load in the bullpen without knowing what it's actually capable of. So I figured we needed to get some data at 640 yards with the 28-inch barrel anyways. So I elected to, and I had 30 rounds loaded up with that daily driver, so I elected to go out and test at 640, which you saw in part 8, and then again at, that went really well, and I was laying there with 12 rounds, and I'm like, well, I got a steel plate at 1030, and I got 12 rounds in front of me. I'm not taking these things home, so elected to shoot that, and you saw how that went. If you haven't seen it, I'll link those two up in the corner here, but shot really well. So I feel good about setting that load aside, and if we get to where we need to revive it, we can. But so what are we doing now? Well, as I mentioned in one of the videos, I was dinking around with Gordon's reloading tool, and I think I found a window of N550 that I want to test. We're trying to get in that 30, 60, 30, 70, 30, 80 foot a second range, and I think Gordon's is telling me that we might see another one around like 30, 3140 or something like that. So that would probably be our sports car node, and the 3070 would be like our daily driver. So we're hoping to try to catch both of those with this ladder test. I'll put the numbers up on the side here, what we're going to load, but going to be the 80 grain ELDM still, loaded at 1.9425 to ogive with my comparators, which is 2.4855 overall length. And that obscure number was what we derived from test 7, where we found a seating depth that it was really happy with. So we're just going to stick with that seating depth and do the powder ladder at that seating depth. We're using N550, and the charge range I selected, we're hoping to encompass, Gordon's was pretty accurate, but it was off by 1 or 2%. The predictions were off by 1 or 2% as far as velocity predictions, originally in part 4. So I'm picking a wide enough window that I hope to catch both the daily driver and the sports car nodes. So we're going all the way from 29.4 grains up to 31.0 in 1/10 increments. So that's 17 different charge weights. And 29.4 grains, it's thinking it's going to be somewhere around 3,000 feet a second. And 31 grains, it's thinking it's going to be around 3160. So if Gordon's is predicting between 3,000 and 3160, hopefully in reality we'll capture, somewhere in there, 3070 and 3140 or 3130. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to, instead of doing the single round per charge weight like I've been doing, that was kind of my abbreviated method. Just because we were pressed for time, we were trying to get the ball rolling on this project and get content out and stuff like that. And I know it works. I've done it before. But what we're going to do this time is my little more involved method, because I think this is where we're going to land for the final load, and I want to give it a thorough vetting before we pursue it further. So I'm going to do 3 rounds at each charge weight, and if you remember when I did the seating depth test in part 7, I'm going to shoot it the same way. where I'm going to have 2 long lines with a bunch of small circles on them, except I'll shoot, instead of skipping seating depths like I did in that video, I'm going to shoot every charge weight, but I'll shoot, you know, one shot of 29.4 at the first circle, one shot of 29.5 at the second circle, 29.6 at the third, and so on. I'll work my way all the way through, and then until if I see pressure, I'll stop, but I don't think we will. Then I'll start at the end, work my way back down again, and if we have 2 shots at a certain charge weight that are touching or super close, then we'll commit the third round. But, you know, if they're an inch apart or there's a ton of vertical or whatever, then we'll just move on and shoot the charge weights that show some promise. So that's the plan. Just want to give you a little quick rundown on what we're doing for the ladder before we head out to the range. But I think that's the long and the short of what we're doing. So we'll see you out on the bench.
All right, we're out here on the range and we're just about ready to get started. We're going to be starting with the kind of a middle charge weight, that 30.1 grains that was supposed to be right at that 3070 that we kind of wanted to be in. I'm going to use that to make sure we're still sighted in. Since we changed powder, I want to make sure we're relatively close to where we need to be. And then also to get a little heat in the gun before we start the ladder test. And we'll be doing the ladder test round robin like everything else. Going down in charge weights, if we see any, you know, pressure signs, we'll stop. But we're going to work our way down, like I said, work our way back, and then if we have any pairs that show promise, any charge weights that show promise, we'll commit that third round. So we're ready to get started. Wow. Right where I was aiming. I think that one was the top charge weight, and it was 3192. I think we might be stopping short. I had one that at the seating depth was a little screwy, and it was the highest charge weight. So I just, rather than pull it, I put it up front and turned it over so I knew it was different, but that was the top charge weight. And again, this is virgin brass, formed nicely, no weird pressure signs, but 3192 on the velocity, which is up in the kind of up in the rocks and dynamite top fuel dragster range that we stopped at with N550. So I'll have to approach that with caution, but see how these remaining 30.1 grainers pan out. Hit right at my point of aim, so I don't think I'll have to change the zero. .3080, 3081, but I said we were kind of looking for that 3060, 3070, 3080. Well, that first one, Gordon's, did pretty good, 3081. Put a couple more on it and see how it groups. Same hole, 3076. We might be done before we start here, boys and girls. This is right where we wanted to be for velocity. And the first two made one snaggly hole. Wow, 3088. Mercy. Not one hole, but one kind of ragged hole. and it's all horizontal. And the velocities were 76, 81, and 88. And this is where Gordon's predicted we would see an optimal barrel time. This was one of the optimal barrel times. It had a couple of them that I was interested in. It'll give you a whole bunch, but the two I was interested in that weren't super low pressure or melt the brass pressure was this 30.1 grains, and then there was another which was supposed to be in the 3070. I think it was like 3077, which I think is about what our average is. We're maybe a little bit above that. And then so 3077, and then another one was 30.6 grains. So this is 30.1. 30.6 was 3140, and that was the other optimal barrel time, velocity, charge weight, and that would, I think that would kind of be our sports car. We did bring that with us, so I'm kind of curious to see if that pans out. I know it may seem like I'm overreacting, but when you plan something like this and you go, okay, I'm gonna warm up or sight in with this charge weight that I think is going to be the ticket, and it actually is. I mean, it was only 3 shots. I know, but man, that's encouraging. Now watch, it'll go to hell, but encouraging to start with. I'm going to shoot these last two and just see what I get for a 5-shot group there. .3089, stringing a little bit left. Again, a reminder, this is the same seating depth that we just shot at 1030, so I didn't change the seating depth, just the powder. .3079, well, that's pretty encouraging. I think I might go measure that group. Well, I just went down and looked at that group and fiddled around with the velocity numbers. And I don't think I've ever done this before, so our leadoff batter, 30.1 grains, parked it in the upper deck as far as I'm concerned. That 5-shot group is less than .400. I didn't bring a calipers with me, but it's bigger than 3/8, but it's less than 7/16. Minimal vertical. The standard deviation was 5, and the ES was 13. So right out of the gate, first group of the day, every metric is better than that daily driver that we just shot at 1,030 yards. That's just stupid. I've never done that before. Well, I'm here. I don't know that I want to just pack my stuff and go home, but I found what I came to find, I guess. But I think, just in the interest of having more data and wanting to get this brass once fired. Now this is virgin brass too. Jesus. In an effort to start chewing through this stuff, I think I'm going to do the test anyway, just to see if, maybe I find something that's a little bit better. That average velocity was a little bit higher than I think what Gordon's had, but it was nominal. I mean, it was like, I think Gordon said like 3077, and this average was 3080, 81, something like that. I mean, that's trivial, but wow, you guys, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of like, I don't know what to say. That's incredible. I think we're going to find a winner here. All right, well, I guess I'll do the testing anyway, since I'm here. We'll see what we get for a velocity range, and see if maybe we can find that sports car node too, or I guess see what this thing tells us. But our old seating depth from where we just shot at 1,030, Same primer, went from N540 to N550. Used Gordon's to find a window that I thought I should operate in. Picked the lower of the optimal barrel time charge weights. Ta-da! Where was this stuff 25 years ago when I started hand loading? My God. Alright, well, that's enough drooling over that. Get going here and see what else we find. So I just went down and looked at all the pairs, and every charge weight, the pair of shots is under 5/8 of an inch. I didn't bring in calipers, but just eyeballing every one. And remember our daily driver that we just shot at 1030 for 5 shots, that was averaging about 5/8 of an inch, and that was the best we could find. This, I brought 17 charge weights. Every pair is under 5/8 of an inch. That's 2 shots, not 5. I realize that, but I think this is going to be the powder for this bullet weight, and we might test others, but I think this looks like the hottest thing I've seen so far. So I think just in the interest of getting more data, I'm going to shoot all the charge weights just to see what it does and get a better average on the velocity trend and see what information I can glean from that. But it's shooting so well that I don't want to start eliminating anything. I'm just going to shoot it all. Like I said, we got to get this brass fired anyway, and see what we see. Right now it's looking like there's a lot more than the sports car, the daily driver and the sports car, which is kind of what we were looking for. And there's like 5 or 6 pairs where the first 2 shots are 1 hole. So it appears to be happy almost no matter what the charge weight is, but the 3rd shot will give us more information, so that's why I'm going to shoot them all. And then we'll try to pick some winners out of there to test further. And I think we're going to try to find something at 200 yards. We'll do that next, in an effort to see if we can find a load that's adequate for shooting in our local varmint match. I've been shooting this in our varmint match, which is why I have over 600 rounds on the barrel. You guys haven't seen 600 rounds worth of testing, but I've been shooting it in our local match just to get exposure for the project. And I've been holding my own, but I haven't really had a load that's done for any of the matches. I've just been going there with however it is at that point in time. So Dale wants me to pick the winners out of here and test them at 200 and pick the best one for using at the varmint match, see if I can clean house this time. But I'm going to get started here. I'm going to start at the top, just work my way to the bottom, and use the chamber chiller and take my time and just do it in one long string from the highest charge weight to the lowest to see what we get. And I'm going to be running the chamber chiller, so I won't be doing any yakking during this string. All right, we're back at the bench here. Holy moly! I'm going to try not to be too much of a goof on this part of the video, but I don't know how you don't get excited about something like this. This is the kind of range trip that you hope you have one day in your life, because a lot of guys will go their whole life and not have a trip like this. We found our powder. I'm going to get to the point here. We got the powder, so I don't know how much testing I'm going to be doing with other powders. Could we maybe find something that shoots better than this? Possibly, but I doubt it. I want to send you guys with something that's optimal, not something that, is readily available but is inferior to this. So I think this is it, just based on what I'm seeing here. Obviously we're going to test it further
but for just picking our same seating depth as we did with the N550 load and just doing a simple powder ladder, we tested 17 different charge weights, all at 1/10 increments, so from 29.4 to 31.0. And all 17 charge weights were 801 or under 801, so they were 800 or less. 12 of the 17 were under 5/8. 9 of the 17 were sub half MOA, which is almost the dumbest thing I've ever heard. 5 of the 17 are a third MOA or better. How do we pick a winner? Well, I think we're gonna, all 5 of those we're gonna test at 200 yards and see how they hold together. Yes, at 200 yards we're introducing more wind, more of me, more mirage, blah blah. But I got to get more data before I can pick a winner. But there's a lot. I've analyzed the hell out of this, and there's a lot here, and I have no hope of covering it all in this little bench review. So I think I have at least 2 separate videos that I can do just on analyzing this. That it's where I can explain better how I analyze groups and why I think what I think and all that stuff, and how you can apply it to your testing. But I think our 2 loads are going to be, just as me kind of going out on a limb and making a prediction, I think it's going to be this one, 30.1. That's what I shot at the beginning where I was getting all excited, where I did my sight-in group, where the first shot was up here on the left, and that was this top charge weight where I accidentally seated a bullet too deep and didn't want to pull it. So I was like, well, I'll just use that as my sighter and then I'll shoot. I was thinking, based on what I found on Gordon's, that our daily driver was going to be this 30.1. So I was like, well, I'll load up 5 extra of those and that'll be my kind of my sighting group. Well, ta-da! It ended up being one of the best groups on here. So it shot a .414 for 5 shots, 3082 on the average, SD of 5, ES of 13. Now, once we actually did the whole ladder test and the gun was heat soaked, I was using the chamber chiller, but it's 80 degrees and there wasn't much breeze, so the gun did get heat soaked. There's nothing I can do about it, and that caused the velocity average to creep up. So instead of 3082, it was 3101, and it also caused the point of impact to drop down a little bit. But that was kind of the most average location of all the shots, was right in line with the bottom of the dot and maybe favoring a little bit left of center of the dot. That was the most common point of impact. So that's a good sign. What makes me think that this is going to be one of the loads. Also, the SD and ES are great. Yeah, we know that's not everything, but it doesn't hurt. And then as you go through these charge weights and you look across 3/10, you say, okay, is this one good? Well, you look at the adjacent charge weights and what their average velocities were, and across 3/10 of powder, this ES for the averages was only 16. This other one that I think is going to be the sports car, which is 30.5 grains, the ES across those 3 charge weights was only 11. So 11 across those 3, 16 across those 3. Those are the best 2 charge weights of anything on this board. So super consistent velocity, which means that, if you have colder temps, higher temps, it's still going to be consistent on the velocity front. But also the average point of impact location across the 3/10 was also really consistent. So those are 2 things that kind of make me think that it's going to be happy there. And then this one that shot the best group, this 30.3 shot the smallest group. If you remember back to part 7 where I talked about the precision nodes in that chart, there was one between the daily driver and the sports car that was a top fuel where I said they can group incredibly small, but they can be erratic for various reasons. So we just have to test it more to find out. And then I also said there could be another top fuel load right up on the end of the pressure spectrum. And if you look at this right here, I don't know if any of you noticed this yet, but the group is a little bit tall. So it's a 520, which is right at that kind of half MOA. But look at the velocity numbers. So the three velocities for this second to the highest charge weight were 31, 79, 78, and 79. The extreme spread was 1 for 3 shots. So in an instance like this, if you wanted to try to tune that top fuel load, you would have to change the seating depth to try to make that group a little bit smaller. And hopefully in doing that, the velocity metrics didn't go to pot, but it's really happy for the combustion piece of the puzzle, but the seating depth, it's not, I mean, half inch group is still, I mean, half MOA, that's still really good, but it's almost all vertical. So you'd want to try to tune that with seating depth a little bit and see if you can make it better without ruining the velocity metrics. But anyway, I think those are going to be the two, but we'll see. I'm going to test all 5 that were a third MOA or less. Test those at 200 yards and see how we do. I think I'm going to bring 10 rounds of each and maybe do 5-shot groups twice or do just 10-shot groups and see what happens and see what we get down there. I need more data to narrow down a winner. From this little sample size, it's kind of hard to pick that. So I think we're going to do that next at 200 yards and see if we can pick a couple winners out of there. And then I think we're going to test them at 640 and 1030 and see how they do. And then I think we're done. I think that's going to be the final load, or as far as we're going to take it in this test rifle, because like I said, we have 4 production rifles that we're going to build right away, and they're going to be 2 different barrel lengths, 28 and 26 inches. We have 2 of each, and they're going to have different stocks and stuff like that. The action will be the same and the trigger will be the same across them all. But we have to get those built and test the loads in those to see, you know, maybe if we need to tweak it a tenth one way or the other, or tweak the seating depth a little bit and make sure that it's done before we send them out to you guys. And we'll still keep testing, you know, we'll still crop it to 25 and test the factory and the hand load there, and 22 and so on, because we really want to see how the velocity decays, and there's a few reasons we're doing all this testing. But so we're going to keep doing that because we still want to gather data, even though the product piece of the puzzle is on the home stretch. So that's what's next. We're going to test those 5 front runners at 200, see how they hold together, and then probably pick 2 winners from that to stretch out further. Unless they all shoot about the same, then I'll stretch them all out. Hell with it. We'll see what happens. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do next. And so yeah, but like I said, there's a lot of data here. I can't cover it all right now. I'll have to do separate videos to go into it, and we can do a deep dive. But that's all I got for now. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on the next one at 200 yards. Thanks.